sunk. But because he is from Switzerland and because his family is all there, the way that they hear about the news is much different from those who had family in England or in the United States. It's something I didn't really think about, but the ripple effects of how something like this, even it's the biggest news story in the world, still takes days and days and days, even just to get across Europe. Do you know anything about what his experience was like when the ship went down? And then how did the news reach his family?
From the time we know about the letters where he had written to his family about wanting to get a couple crossings under his belt and he would be able to apply and get a job at any of the finest restaurants in London, up until after the sinking, we really don't have information on what happened to Adolf that night. We do know a little bit about what probably happened to him based on Paul Mauge's testimony to the British inquiry officials. And there was a story that ran in the paper in his hometown and home area in Switzerland on April 17th. The Lucerne Tagblatt ran a story, and there were many contradictory stories around that. Everyone was waiting with hope that their hometown hero was safe. But near the end of the month, the White Star Line notified the Matmans that Adolf had been on board the Titanic and he had not been rescued. On April 30th, the village of Inwell, his hometown, had a funeral service for Adolf. Adolf was beloved. He was a hometown hero in Inwell, this town in Switzerland where his family had a wine shop. He was well known because he had really been dedicated to his dream of working in pastry and ice cream and working as a pastry chef. He had worked at the Hotel Lowen in Weggis in Lucerne for 2 summers. Now he was moving along, in his dreams of pursuing a pastry chef career, like so many people do today.
Hey everyone, Scott here. We're going to take a very short break for a word from our sponsors. Well, we definitely have something to go on with our culinary spotlight that you teased earlier with the French vanilla ice cream, because what we do at the end of each episode with our drinking, dining, and style guide is do something to recreate what the experience of the Titanic was. And because so many people who were there were in service in one way or another, and everybody consumed in one way or another, getting a sense of those consumables and everything else and potent potables, I think really gives us a snapshot of what that was like. Tell us about the French vanilla ice cream recipe.
Well, it was an obvious choice for this episode because as Adolf being the ice cream maker aboard the Titanic, of course we had to have a recipe that focused on ice cream. And we definitely wanted to have a recipe in this book for French vanilla ice cream. I mentioned earlier that the difference between French vanilla and American vanilla is that French vanilla is made with the egg yolks. That's why it looks a little bit yellow or yellower compared to American ice cream, which is made with milk and cream. And this recipe is really special. It's made by a chef that I've worked with over the years in Evanston, Illinois at Hearth Restaurant. His name is Michael Elliott. And Michael is an executive chef there, and he contributed this recipe for French vanilla ice cream. It's 4 cups of milk, 1.5 cups of cream, 2.5 cups of sugar, 1 cup dry milk powder, and then 10 egg yolks. So it's pretty substantial there with the egg yolks. It'll give it a nice yellow color, yellowish. And a tablespoon of salt, 2 vanilla pods with the seeds scraped. And most of us know how to follow that routine. And it's so delicious.
Yeah, that really takes it up a notch. This isn't just the normal extract, especially with vanilla pods. Making it more artisanal, I think that's really going to take things up a step. And for people listening, if you didn't catch everything, there are recipes for all these things, not just this culinary spotlight, but all the ones that have appeared in each of the episodes in our show notes. Veronica, thanks for going over all of this. And in the next episode, We're going to look at the people who played a critical role, and I think if there's any type of idea of chivalry on the Titanic, it came with the helpers. So we're going to look at their lives and what happened when the ship was going down in the next episode. All right, well, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check out this show. First of all, I'd like to thank the Knowlton's Rangers, and especially our spy masters, Baron Freza, Carl from Norway, Chris from Maine, Moondoggy from Ohio, and Rick Knowlton, and I'll explain what that means in a second. If you like this show, please like and subscribe on the podcast listener of your choice. Join our Facebook page as well. You can find it if you just search for History Unplugged. And one of the best ways you can help out the show is if you join the Knowlton's Rangers. The Knowlton's Rangers were an elite reconnaissance and espionage detachment of the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War, but it's also the name of the History Unplugged membership program. Learn how to join by going to patreon.com/unplugged. So here's what you get if you become one of the Knowlton's Rangers. If you join at the level of Scout, you can get early access to new podcast episodes, along with enjoying absolutely every single episode of the History Unplugged podcast ad-free. All 270 and counting episodes. If you join at the level of Intelligence Officer, you can also get access to premium episodes, like a multi-part series on the life of Audie Murphy, the most decorated combat soldier in World War II, or the 10-part series Ottoman Lives, a series that looks at the cast of characters that made up the Ottoman Empire, such as the Sultan, the Eunuch, the harem servant girl, and the soldier. And finally, if you join at the level of Spy Master, you get all the same stuff as the Scouts and Intelligence Officers, but you also get a shout-out to you and or your business at the end of each episode, a 3-pack of hardcover history books, plus you'll be put at the very front of the line for me to answer your question about history, and I can guarantee I will dedicate an episode that's about an hour long or so to your question. Sign up at patreon.com/unplugged. Again, that's patreon.com/unplugged. Anyway, those are the ways you can help out the show. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for listening to the History Unplugged podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get your daily dose of all things history related, from ancient Greece to the Cold War. We'll see you next time at the History Unplugged podcast.